Good afternoon, everyone. We've got a Sunday afternoon, the 18th of July. Early start today, 5 o'clock special. Due to the boring Victorian Melbourne lockdown, we thought we'd kick it up a notch and hang out for a little while. I've been listening to a fantastic live stream this afternoon for an hour or so with Karen Fields, who was absolutely super. It was a little backyard session where she lit a little campfire and played a few songs, and I thought that was absolutely awesome because sadly her CD launch for the new album Water was supposed to be released. Well, it is released, but she was having a show today at Northcote Social Club. So sadly, we couldn't put that on, but thanks to Karen for enlightening us with a few songs. It was fantastic to have this afternoon. Let's bring up Cuz. How are you, Cuz?
G'day, Az. How are you, mate?
Very good, mate. Sunday afternoon, episode 44. 45, sorry. We're skipping along now.
Who'd have thought we'd get this far, mate? Lockdown yet again.
Yeah, it's
trying times for all, unfortunately.
Yeah, it sure is. It's a challenge, no doubt. It's whatever gets you through the night, they say. We've got another day, another night to get through. Yep. We're lucky enough to have work, which is a big benefit for us, and to be able to go back to work on a Monday morning is a good thing. Lovey, how are you, mate? Welcome back, Lovey.
Mate, how are we? I'm about as chirpy as a horny bluebird. I don't know what you blokes are on about. This lockdown's fantastic. I love it. Bring it on. It's Cars, hello. Go get a COVID test, mate.
Excuse me, sorry, mate.
Sunday afternoon. It's weekend's almost over, except we've probably got another 3-day weekend coming up anyway. So yippee, you beauty.
Yes, and we're tuning in from, and Natalia is calling in or tuning in from Beijing, China. So welcome to the show, and good to see you could become part of it. So as you know, boys, we've been reaching out. A good friend of ours, Robert Wine, was jumping off from Canada and freaked out because it's 3 a.m. in Canada. So he's sadly declined the invitation, mate, and he'll be back on, and I'm sure he's going to watch this back as some of our friends do.
Not happy with the early start.
Yeah. What have you done in the last 24 hours since our last show, boys? I take it not a lot.
No, very little.
Sadly, the Demons only, well, when you say got the chocolates, they drew. So we'll take that as a win. Keeps us back on top. And your Bombers today literally scraped home.
Yeah, it was a bit of a fight. Wasn't clinical. Nothing you'd expect from a team that was tipped to finish in the bottom four. So, we've exceeded expectations, but we're starting to hit that flat spot that most young sides do during the year. So that's all right. We'll keep on winning.
We will,
maybe.
Yes, we'll soon see. It's going to be a challenge for a lot of codes now to finish their seasons off. That's for sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
So excitingly enough, we've got another music guest. This is someone I've known about for probably only 12 months, to be perfectly honest, and hadn't seen him live due to COVID lockdowns and a few other things. But excitingly enough, got to see him last weekend. Snuck it in before the COVID lockdowns at Brunswick Ballroom, which is a fantastic venue. Obviously, that little backdrop behind me is the newly renovated Brunswick Ballroom. So a great venue, big venue, or reasonably big venue, and a sit-down gig, which I can tell you was a little bit tough following this next guest to sit down and watch this show. I definitely would want it to be one of those shows where you're up and dancing, that's for sure. But the beer was cold and the food was good, and no doubt the music was fantastic. So let's bring him up without further ado, Mr. Matt Joe Gow. G'day, Matt. How are you?
How's it going? Good to see you guys.
G'day, Matt. Matty. Welcome aboard.
G'day. It's good to be locked down with you.
I like it.
As we know, there could be worse things to do on a Sunday than hang out and have a chat, mate, and have a chat about life. So, yeah, sadly for you, lockdown means another strain of gigs that are going to go by the wayside. So we'll touch on that a little bit more shortly. But excitingly enough, last week was a fantastic gig at Brunswick Ballroom.
Yeah, it feels like a dream now. you were talking about it before, and I got to say, for an artist, I mean, I was in the crowd for most of it, watching the other bands, and they're all friends of mine. So for me to be watching and enjoying live music in Melbourne, that was one thing. And then to get on stage and have the reaction that I received was amazing, and I'm super grateful for that. And we knew it was special at the time, but now, less than a week on to be locked down after it, it's like, okay, we really need to take advantage of every opportunity to play and to go listen to music. So yeah, amazing time.
Yeah,
it's
sure
interesting, Matty. Yeah, it's interesting, man. The reaction you talk about. I don't know how many times you've been to Melbourne, but that reaction probably will tell you how much we're missing a whole bunch of our live shows and music in general in Melbourne. I mean, it's one of the things, along with sport. It was a thing that constantly had us kicking over and really pumping money into each other's economies and all the rest of it. And it was just, we love it. Whenever there's live music, we just absolutely love it here in Melbourne. So the reaction's probably something you get used to if we get back to it, hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of lucky enough to play shows in New Zealand. I had a bunch of shows there on a tour that rolled into Melbourne. And then I had a Victorian tour scheduled for July with my friend Ben, who was on your show last week. Was it last week?
It was. Yep.
Yeah. So Ben and I had this tour around Victoria. Obviously, we've lost at least a few of those shows, which we're rescheduling. I'll talk about that later. But so yeah, to come back and play was an amazing feeling. I mean, I started out here in Melbourne, and very much familiar with the live scene. But as you said, it was almost a different energy. It was a celebration and a chance to rejoice, and it hurts a lot that we were sort of robbed of that so quickly. I mean, it's a bit rich coming from me in some ways because I was in New Zealand, although I did do 2 weeks in a hotel room. That wasn't fun. What's five lockdowns for you? So this is just the first one for me in Melbourne, but it's tough, and I feel for all the musicians out there and all the people who are affected. And it's something that we have to sort of learn to adapt to, unfortunately, rescheduling and doing our best.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully we can get out of this mess fairly quickly, but it's not going to be an easy one this time. They keep talking about getting harder and harder, even though this one's supposedly going to be a short one. I don't think it's going to be, personally. I think it's going to be a good couple of weeks. And the sad part about that is the knock-on effects, especially mentally. So this is the point of the reason why we put this show together, Matt, is to have a chat to friends, have a chat to musicians. And most importantly, friends might be see this on Facebook or YouTube or the podcast we do, and be able to listen in later and get something out of some of the conversations we have. Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's been something I've had to adapt to. Everything changing. Being a musician is kind of a relatively difficult life, anyways. In some ways, you choose to do it because you love it. But I don't know anyone that ever said being a musician was easy before COVID. But, you don't complain because you choose to do it. You don't have to do it. So now it's about, I mean, I feel for myself, I feel for all the musicians like me, but we were talking about this earlier. We touched on it. I really feel for new musicians who are like 17, 18, 19, and they want to be just starting to get out and play in live venues. Like, I don't even know what they would be doing, I guess, just live streaming, but harder to build a following from scratch, live streaming as a musician. I really feel for them because when I was a kid, I grew up in Dunedin, and there was just a plethora of live music venues you could play anywhere. Even when I was 13, 14, we'd support the bands who were at uni because there was the Flying Nun record label that had had all these massive bands in the 90s, 80s, sort of pumped a lot of money into the music industry. Not a lot of money, but it was one of the main music industries in music towns in New Zealand because of the Flying Nun bands, Straight Jacket Fits, Chills, Verlaines, all these cool bands coming out of there. So when I grew up, I didn't really know any different, and I would just play these venues and sort of, I guess, take it for granted that you could just play on any given weekend. So yeah, I really feel for new bands starting out.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, just on new bands, because we had James Young on that owns a Cherry Bar and a few other venues.
I know James well. Yeah,
he was talking about that, and he said it's interesting because he's seen a lot of bands that weren't necessarily musicians full time, and they've kind of thrown it in during COVID, and then said, "Oh, that's enough. We're not going to play really again. That's kind of it. We're going our separate ways." And he said there's this whole influx of young kids that are playing together in garages or over Zoom sessions or whatever. And he said which is always upbeat as you know, but he's very much interested in some of these young bands that are actually coming through. So it'll be an interesting space to watch.
Yeah. James always been he's always been into music. We would chat at Cherry Bar and stuff. Doesn't he owns a place out west now, I think?
Yeah. So Hotel Westwood. Yep.
Yeah.
That'll be that's a great venue. It'll be a great venue. Yeah.
So
was that on the list? That wasn't on the list of the.
I chatted with Ben about it because he had a show there, and I was thinking about. I may have played there before. You know, when you play so many shows, used to play so many shows, you forget. Yeah. Sometimes I roll into a town in Australia, like Bermagui, and I'd be like, "Have I been at Matt Joe Gow, Bermagui?" I'm like, "Oh, I was here in 2014." Okay, no clue. No clue. So I may have played there with Grantley Phillips, who was in a band called Grantley Buffalo. We toured a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I may have played there. It's quite a big venue, capacity, relatively.
Yeah, pretty big venue. Yeah, it's just been completely redeveloped. So yeah, some great sound in there for sure. Very similar kind of feel of a sound, definitely, to somewhere like Macedon Railway.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Macedon, was it yesterday? That was yesterday.
That one was, and then obviously where you'd be right now would be sitting at Archie's Creek.
Yeah. Anyone watching? We just rescheduled that September 12, and we rescheduled Macedon to August 13. But I'll be announcing that on my site. So we're trying. We keep throwing them up, you know, and they might getting swatted away, but we'll just keep throwing them up till something goes in, and we just keep trying these dates. So yeah, Ben and I spoke today, August 13, get back to Macedon. The problem is we talk to you like with tours, right? Tours are like jigsaw puzzles. You got to fit them all together. People have full-time jobs as tour managers, and it takes a lot of work to fit all the pieces right so that you're not traveling 6-7 hours different places to play. But when a tour reschedules, because of so many other reschedules, you can't just, I'll take that date and that one, because your venues are like, we're booked up all of August, all September. This is all we got because of the reschedules from June. So unfortunately, we can't put our shows back to back and make the tour run in the same way as it would. But yeah, we got August 13 for Macedon and back in September for 12 for Archie's Creek. So anyone who's got tickets, we will be playing for you. Don't you worry. But
good.
I'll play you a song. You want me to play you a tune?
Yeah, please do. I'm actually impressed you remember a little place called Bermagui in the first place. It's fantastic. But before we play the tune, how long have you been travelling for those sort of kilometres? I mean, you're not talking going from a pub in Brunswick to a pub in Richmond to a pub in Collingwood. It's Archie's Creek. It's all over the place. How long have you been touring with a stack of Ks like that?
Well, the stack of Ks is only would be the last few years. And obviously when COVID cleared in New Zealand, I just went hard for a lot of shows there, 35 shows, a lot of Ks. But I try to not do more than 3-4 hours a day if in distance. New Zealand, sometimes you don't have to. I was putting in about 3-4 hours between shows. Melbourne, Victoria's great though. You got so many venues within so close. So I think with our tour, we were going to do like Brunswick, I'd done Red Hill the week before,
Yep.
Massenden, Archie. So it's 2 hours here and there. But on an album launch, that's generally put the Mad K's in. And back in the day, like on the first record, decade ago, like we piled everything into a trailer and we just headed up the coast. I didn't even really know how big Australia was, and it's just fucking massive. And you're just driving and driving. So we put in a lot of Ks back then. I do it a bit smarter now. I fly these days, you know.
I was going to say,
I don't drive to Queensland.
give you a quiet warning. Don't ever do the drive from Melbourne to Sydney. It's just boring, horrendous.
That's a mean one. Yeah.
That's
I think I got Denny Ute Muster. That's from New South Wales. That's probably one I'll drive to New South Wales. But generally in New South Wales, I'll fly and then hire. Like last time I was there, I flew in, hired a car, and we just drove to Newcastle, drove to wherever. So yeah, we try to do it a bit smarter these days. But you can get a lot of shows in Victoria. You know, Ben and I had all of July just in Vic. I mean, look, we still do technically. So, you know, we still do. We'll see how it goes. I don't know.
Yep.
They're not cancelled as yet.
Yeah. Good. Like Naomi says on the chat. Like Naomi said on the chat, it's good to see you rescheduling. So
yeah, you got to try. I mean, like you said, I mean, I don't blame people. Some people just give up, but like I don't do anything else, so there's not, and I'm not really good at anything else, so I don't really know what I do. I just got to keep trying, and hopefully, you know, there is New Zealand at the moment, but even that could shut down. So if we get locked when we do open, if it's looking like New South Wales or whatever is just going to keep taking the piss and getting people infected down here, then I will. I'll probably try go play there. You know. Let's try. I'm going to play I'm going to play different songs. So I did for anyone tuning in who was at the Brunswick Ballroom. I'll play some different songs. 3 albums I have, so there's no excuse for playing the same songs all the time. I'll do like upbeat, downbeat. We'll switch it up. We don't want this to be all doom and gloom. You know, not all doom and gloom. So this song called this song called "It's Not Hard." This was the first track written for the first record. Raised Christian, honey, I was brought up under cover of sun and sky. We would meet in early evening, just as sun was setting in the cold, holding hands. And love so simple, and love so pure, despite what we knew. Life's about direction, and darling, one day moving, one day come apart in front of you. It's not hard to cross the earth or the sea. It's not hard to cover ground on the breeze. There are things I struggle with, that is true. It's not hard to stay in love when it's with you. Alright. I moved on to big things, honey. I bought a house and made my money back. Sold it on. You went on to marry someone, and I heard you had a couple kids. Ran aground, yeah. Life's about direction, darling. One day I'm moving, one day I'm looking back at you. I was doing more the later I stopped moving, I started turning back to you. It's not hard to cross the earth or the sea. It's not hard to cover ground on the breeze, but there are things I struggle with, that is true. It's not hard to stay in love when it's with you. La-di-na-di-na-da-da, 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 la-di-na-di-na-da. It's not hard to cross the earth or the sea. It's not hard to cover ground on that breeze, darling, but there are things I struggle with, that is true. It's not hard to stay in love, it's with you. It's not hard to stay in love, it's with you. Darling, it's not hard, no, no, no.
Fantastic, mate. Love
Fantastic. Really good, Matt. So, mate, tell me what first got you into music? Was it listening to your mum and dad sort of records or like other family members?
Tick, correct. It was exactly that. My mother is a music fan and has great taste, impeccable taste. She loves Clapton, B.B. King, John Lee Hooker, Rolling Stones, Wilburys, Beatles, Springsteen, Dylan, Cash. So it was,
right?
yeah. So back when I was a kid, there was no Spotify when I was a kid, right? So you just would raid my mother's like vinyl or CD collection, and I would pinch one and just take it to my room and just be playing it. You know, back when you'd play whole albums, geez, people actually did that. Yeah, so I play whole albums, and you'd listen to the whole Wilburys record, or the whole Abbey Road, or the whole whatever, you know, B.B. King compilation she had, and that's what got me into music. But it wasn't until I was about 12. I mean, I started playing piano when I was little, like 5 or 6. But that wasn't my music. That was classical music, and that was okay. It gave me like a manual dexterity that perhaps I wouldn't have now. I don't know, but so I thank her for that. I'm thankful for that. But I think it was about 12 years old when I started to really notice music, and it was the connection that music had. These artists that I was watching were clearly influenced by those artists. I didn't know it at the time. So we're talking about like the Black Crowes, who are clearly Stones influenced and Creedence influenced, and then later Whiskey Town, Wilco, that sort of Grantley Buffalo, who I mentioned earlier, who later became a good friend of mine. But so those bands were influenced by Neil Young and all those 60s, 70s bands. And so then I was into that music, and that's when I realized that music was kind of cool, because your parents' CD collection when you're a kid, you don't know what's cool, you don't know what's what. So it was kind of gave me a validation. This music's cool. You know?
Okay. Yep.
So I started playing guitar because I was singing in a band at 13, and the band wasn't. I had no control over the music, right? So I couldn't write. So then I decided to start playing guitar so that I could write, and journey from there. Yeah. But
just tell us a little bit about that band at age 13, Matt. What were you playing? And
you're playing your own music, but it's terrible. You know, it was kind of like punky sort of. Well, because here's the thing with any band, right? Very few bands work when 5 people are all like trying to put in their 2 cents for the songwriting. Like maybe you know, maybe Rage Against the Machine work like that. I don't know. But most bands will have a McCartney Lennon, or they'll have, there'll be like a Tom Petty, someone like that who will front the band, lead the band, come up with the ideas, and then everybody else from there will sort of jump on board. But when you're a kid, you don't know that, so everyone just puts in their ideas, and you're quite diplomatic. So you're like, oh yeah, that's cool. And they'll be like, I have this idea, and you're like, okay, and it just, your songs end up sounding like a whole bunch of stuff, and that doesn't generally work. So, but that's where you learn. This is another thing that I tell people who want to play music who are a little bit older. The problem is that you're allowed to suck when you're 13. Right? When you get up there in your 20s or 30, whatever age people are, people will be like, oh, these guys are shit. And in Melbourne, especially, they'll walk away, But it's that's a good thing about Melbourne too. Like, you can go out and the bands are of high quality, because you go to other cities around the world and bands aren't like they are here. You can see all sorts of genres here. You came along on Sunday, and that was an Americana show on a Sunday afternoon, evening, full house. It's crazy. Like, people in Melbourne,
in central Melbourne too. I didn't jump in the car and take off for an hour where I'd expect it to happen. It was great.
And on a night, you can probably go see jazz or blues, or it's certainly punk and rock, and that's what's super cool. That's why I sort of moved here and started to play here. But it's been a bit of a road. That song that you heard there was off the first record, and I don't think Americana music 10 years ago when that came out, I don't think it was. It didn't have as much of it's boutique still, but it didn't have as much of a following as it does now. People kind of.
If I can ask one thing, so Americana, you're talking about it's sort of 10 years old and all the rest of it. Who would be?
Americana in Australia, like, it's been around for a while. Who knows? But like back when you play, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I would say less of a understanding, or people are kind of like, are you playing country music, or what are you playing? Like, what is this? Like, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, so it's sort of, if you were to introduce someone into this genre outside of Australia, I mean, who would be the flag bearers of it? Is it your Credence? Is it your...
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple things to that. So it used to be called alternative country, sort of what I was doing there on that song, which was like elements of country music, but the alternative side was that you're not necessarily cowboy hat wearing, singing about a pickup truck. You take the elements of country, which may be some rhythms, some of the instrumentation, but you apply it in possibly an urban setting or to any lyrical content. That's sort of what alternative country was. We were peddling that, right? That was what we are, what we were. And what I think happened is the music evolved, the term became Americana. And I think that's because it's more palatable to non-country music listeners. Be like, that doesn't have the word country in it. But for me,
it's like a form of cut through. It's almost like sort of the in between of, if you want to cut through to metro or commercial, it's sort of, instead of being pure country that some people for whatever reason don't go to, that maybe that's their way through to it. Is that right?
Yeah, it's basically, nowadays when it's called Americana, it'll just be, in my opinion, it's like a mix of influences from what are seen as traditional American music. So that could be blues, country, folk, and even rock now. So if you mix those things together, you can pretty much be branded under Americana, I would say. But if you lean too far one way, they'll just call you a blues band. But what's beautiful about Americana is that for me as an artist, you can if you have influences that come from blues or folk, or it might be jazz, whatever, you can display those on your record, and it's still in keeping to anyone who's your fan and listens to Americana, because that is Americana, right? But maybe if you were alternative country, your fans might go, that's a bit bluesy. What are you doing? So I'm quite happy under that branding now, because there's a lot of freedom in Americana music. And for me, it's been, now there are things called Americana festivals and all that sort of stuff, which I love. They didn't exist 10 years ago either. So that's great. And I felt on our last record, we made a pure Americana record. There are 8-bar blues songs, rock songs, folk songs, country songs. And so we really enjoy expressing ourselves under that banner. And I guess, yeah, it's an easier way for people to get into a bit of the twang that country has without being like, oh, I have to wear a cowboy hat, Not that I like cowboy hats, but a lot of people may not like that in that urban.
That's about as close as I've got. That's the Dallas Cowboys one, but it's not the same thing. But yeah, you get the point.
Yeah.
But,
what about from the younger people coming through, Matt? Who are some of the younger up and coming Americana sort of musicians that you look at and see that they're on the sort of trajectory upwards and onwards?
It's interesting, because I've just been focusing local recently. When it's international, I'll look at artists who are not necessarily new and up and coming, but they'll be releasing a new record. Like someone asked me what my favorite Americana musicians, and there's a new album by a band called His Golden Messenger, and they brought out an album recently. Brilliant album, but he's not up and coming. He's been around for a while, although his career is sort of trajectory is like that over the last 2 albums, because I think he got some Grammy interest nomination or something. So that just sort of exploded. But I remember a few years ago, we had a review in the same magazine. That's where I saw his album, and I reached out and had a chat with him at that point. MC Taylor is his name, and his band's called His Golden Messenger. But so yeah, I'll generally follow acts that are still going, but there's heaps of overseas bands that, Courtney Marie Andrews, heaps of bands that blow up. But here locally, you were watching Karen earlier, and she's great. I think she has a great energy about her, and she's a great songwriter, and has a lovely, unique voice. And we're both New Zealanders, so I'm biased. She's New Zealand Melburnian.
Hey, you can afford to be biased. You can definitely afford to be biased with her. This was a picture from her live stream today. I mean, really cool. Backyard, lighted the fire.
I tuned in as well. But I was also painting my house at the time. So I was sort of phone in one hand tuning in. But I'm gonna, we played the show on Sunday together, and we played together on the Wednesday before that on radio, and we chat a lot. And she's just a real sweetheart and an amazing artist. And she's definitely on the rise with her new record.
Just before you do it, it's not often I see a lot of gigs, and it's not often I get there for the first act a lot of the time. And
most people don't.
I am so glad that I got there early. And it was actually the first time I'd heard Karen, and it was one of those instant wow moments the second her voice came out. It was incredible. And I went up to her after the gig and went and had a chat to her, and obviously she was appreciative of that, but it was beautiful. Fair dinkum. It was really
she's really humble. She's lovely. I mean, all the artists on the bill were humble and lovely people. I only mentioned Karen because she's newer on the radar was the question. But she's been doing it, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years since I think her first release 2015 or what. So she's not new by any stretch, but I definitely feel she has an energy. She's working hard, and I know she was meant to have a release today or yesterday, and I was meant to have a show today and yesterday. So we're all in the same boat. But that show had a bunch of great musicians, my friends, the Weeping Willows, who I've known for a long time. everyone loves them. They're great. My friend Ben Mastwick, who you had on, and we were meant to be touring. So lots of solid acts. Melbourne has a great music scene in general. I was out the other day chatting with Lachlan, Bryant, and we were just in a bar, and Katie Bates. And so there'll just be musicians you just run into and chat with, and it's a cool vibe, you know. It's a cool vibe.
It sure is. Must give you some great energy knowing that you're coming on later on in that evening, and the room's really prepped, you know.
Yeah, it's either like a great energy, or you're like, oh my goodness, these guys going to blow me off the stage. Jeez.
How do I follow this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was I don't always sit in the crowd and watch the other bands, and that's not for some arrogant, like I'm better than them reason. It might just be how the green room is laid out. You might be prepping for your set. Like you might be putting your set list together. You might be tuning it to whatever. But so I'm not always out front, but I watch like pretty much every second of those bands. Because like we talked about, like you can't take stuff for granted anymore. You got to try. I'm the same. I try to take it all in. And I really wanted to take part in the evening as a sort of audience, as a member of the audience as well. And get a feel for the sound, because I actually hadn't played that room that way, right? I played where the stage used to be, Spotted Mallard.
Yeah, Spotted Mallard, yeah.
Yeah.
What did the sound in there? I thought the sound was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Stive was the sound guy. He's obviously got a great ear, and I thought the sound was fantastic. Yeah. Good sound, and yeah, good musicians will help with that too, because they won't have super on stage volumes cranked up, and so they're all pros playing there, making it sound good, I thought. And yeah, the whole thing was cool. I like the interaction, and we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that now. Like people have asked me about Georgia Rose, which we closed with, and we're going to release that video, because I released a minute of it, and people were like, "That's cool." So we'll release the whole video later on, filmed by my friend Regan. It's got like, I think 9 of us on stage, or 10 of us on stage. Everybody's singing a song.
Just while you do, I just happen to have a little snippet of it, mate. So let me play this for you.
I think it'd be great.
Take me home, let me live again. Take me home, sweet Georgia Rose, with a voice that would heaven sent. There ain't a song that I wanna sing, there ain't a river that I wanna ride without you, sweet Georgia Rose, by my side. Take me home, sweet Georgia Rose, take me home, let me live again. Alright, take me home, sweet Georgia Rose, with a voice that would heaven sing. There ain't a song that I wanna sing, there ain't a river that I wanna ride without you, sweet Georgia Rose, by my side.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was one of those moments at a gig where, you know, at that first 30, 40 seconds there wasn't an instrument being played. It was just pure vocal, and mate, that was really special. So thanks for doing that.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it was a cappella. I felt we had a lot of great vocalists on stage. The song itself, on the 7 Years record, it drops down to just vocals, a 3-part harmony, I think. And I just felt having everyone on stage, it'd be pretty captivating to have everyone sing, no instruments. We'll give it a go. Not rehearsed either. So that was the first time it was ever performed by all of us, and it worked out well. It's one of those sort of magical things that sometimes happen to close the show. So yeah, worked well.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, I'll bring that out later about so what is it, like maybe an hour after this finishes, I'll just post it to our socials for people to check out. Karen sings a verse on that. She was kind enough to sing one of the verses. I don't know if that video, that small clip I had didn't have her on it, but
Yep.
She sings one of the verses, which is really cool. Second verse. The song is about traveling and moving on, and sort of the life of a musician, and what that entails, and sort of the losses that you have to carry, and as you go along. So maybe she understood some of that. I don't know, but she sang the hell out of it, as did everyone else, and I think it'll be cool for people to see the whole thing.
Absolutely. And speaking of singing the hell out of something, it's something you do well, Matt. That's for sure. And
Thanks.
you're a born performer, mate. So it'd be silly of me to keep talking and not have you play another song. So what else have you got for us?
Well, I'm gonna keep playing songs that I didn't play the other night. Keep trying some different stuff. I don't know if I've played this song live before. We'll give it a go. This is a song called "We Get Lost," and it. Let me move this mic closer. It closes the Break, Rattle, and Roll record. I'll give it a shot. All right. Like a drug, I still feel you were blind and that free. If I was cold, I know I can be. If I was cold, I'm sorry. Don't let it be. Don't let it be over. It got rough, I believe. You said it's not meant to be like this, and I stood still for a while, babe. Don't let it be. Don't let it be over. Love don't come cheap, and we get lost. We get lost. I say, babe, don't we? I'll bear the cost. I'll bear the cost. We barely recognize our life, like washed up clothes on a riverside. We'll say goodbye. We'll say goodbye. Cheap. Yeah, we get lost. We get lost. I say, babe, don't we? I'll bear the cost. I'll bear the cost. Yeah, I still hear you say you and me. We are lost. We are lost. I say, babe, don't we? I'll bear the cost. I'll bear the cost. If I was cold, I know I can be. If I was cold, I'm sorry.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Very good, Matt.
As,
Album close to that
lovely,
one. Last track, sad song, you know.
thanks for that. No, I really appreciate it. Obviously a fair bit of Bob Dylan in that one with the harmonica and that. The first time I ever heard a harmonica was my dad's. You talk about following your dad's
Yeah.
LPs and albums and the like, and he liked a bit of Bob Dylan. That was the harmonica was there. The very first time I really appreciated the harmonica was actually Desire by U2, and I thought, well, geez, you can really hum up the harmonica. When do you feel like you want to infuse a harmonica? How often? What's the most common time you think, oh yeah, I reckon the harmonica can go here? Is it the slower music? Is it
Interesting you say that.
Fast beats?
Yeah, I used to think like that, more sort of more. It was more obvious to use a harp, and now I try to use a harp in different places, you know, because I've been playing it for a long time. So now across the records, they're on the more standard, upbeat, mid-tempo tunes. Just blow, and it's the sort of solo. Cool and straight harp, like we have a song called Come What May. That's Dylan-esque straight harp, mid-up tempo song. Then we'll have cross harp when I want to inject a bluesy element. It's called cross harp. I'm using a blues to the layman's. It's a bluesy sound using a cross key. So I started to do that, and then in a song like on Break, Rail and Roll. There's a track called Details, and the harp in that is an somewhat ambient textured pad in the background. So I've really started to use the harp as an instrument like you'd use a guitar, more so like you use a guitar. So I try to use it in different ways, not just blow it because I don't have a guitarist to play the solo. I certainly don't do that on the band anymore. There's no harp in that song on record, but here, the harp, when I'm by myself, can replace a guitar solo when I want a different texture. So it adds that nicely. But, you know, to do that, you need to have like freaking lots and lots of harmonicas and, you know, so, which I do. And, but I love, my favorite use of the harp is probably like on a track called Bottle It Up, Pass It On. That style harp where it's almost like screaming, so you don't have to scream as an artist because that's not within the right tone of the song. So like the song, I'm sort of singing in a sort of it's like that tempo, and the vocals are they're about there is nothing more that I want. I give you my heart, but you know. It won't take. So it's like that vocally, yeah. And I don't really want to break that vocal pattern and suddenly be like, yeah, it's screaming, right? It's not. That you've lost character of that guy, but you want an upbeat element. So then I can always have the harp go like. So then it's like, boom, you know, it's like gives you that energy, that scream without you breaking character. sort of an extension of your voice. I really find harmonicas handy for that. That's my favorite thing to do. Like I can't be bothered screaming, so I'll just, harmonica can do it for me, you know, or Katya, she can sing really high. So yeah, one of those guys can sing for me.
And just touching on that, incredible band you've got.
Yeah.
And you've had a couple of people go through your original setup with the Dead Leaves.
Yeah, we've got pretty similar setup for what we've had for the whole time. Our drummer on the original Dead Leaves record became our engineer for our records. He's just a better engineer than he is a drummer. Drums are hard. You know, I play the drums. They're a hard instrument to be pro. To be really top level. So I play drums on a few tracks on the record, but I know that I couldn't do justice to the whole record. I can't play like our drummer, Daniel. He's ridiculously good. So my first drummer, Daniel Brait's amazing drummer. So my first drummer, we came up together and he was was just hanging on, like getting there. But I think he's a better engineer, and he's shifted into that role, and he does that really well. So Daniel came on board a few years ago. Katya's been on board for years and years. Andy from pretty much the start. Our bass player, usual bass player in the Dead Leaves is Cam Grindrod. He's been on there for a long time. He couldn't make that show because New South Wales lockdown, or it was looming. So we had a guy called Robin Murphy come in and play, who I've known since I was a kid, because he was from Dunedin, and he was over. He like produced some of my demos when I was like a teenager. So I called upon him. He's a long-time bass player here, well known in Dunedin, and he stepped in last minute, like 2 weeks, and played to a really high level, which was great. But having Daniel at the back on the drums makes it easy, and those two on either side can sing great. So I just kind of do my thing, and they harmonize around me, and life's pretty easy in that respect. You know, good band.
Absolutely. Just let me play. I just want to play a little touch of "Flowers in Your Hair," which obviously features Katya.
You may find it in the end. Try to hold it from the start. If it catch you unaware, that is love.
Yeah, fantastic.
Wasn't that cute?
I snuck up on you there. I just played a little snippet.
Well, the thing is with that song is, I said this on the day, that was originally Bill Chambers' part. Like, it was a duet with Bill Chambers, who's a lovely guy and good friend. But it just didn't work quite as well, because I guess it is a love song. So, you know, singing to my mate, who I do love in a different way, it didn't quite work. But Katya, it's easier to sell. You know, it looks real. So, and I love her as well. You know, so we've been together for I think she's joined the band for the 7 years record. She is Andy's cousin. Yeah. So my guitarist and her there, and so it's like element of family band there. And my bass player and my guitarist, they work together in a guitar store since they were kids, or a long time anyway. So yeah, it's a really good vibe. That was one of the best things about coming back to Melbourne, just catching up with the band. Like, we rehearsed, and it was, I said to them, like, it's a shame people aren't here for this rehearsal. It was a hell of an energy there, you know. We were really enjoying that. I know I was. And that's not to say I didn't, I had great musicians in New Zealand, and a shout out to them, because I had a band in New Zealand for a few shows, and they're friends of mine too. But yeah, the Dead Leaves, who I record with, that was pretty special. And as you saw, that it just makes it so much easier, because it allows me to be free and perform and relax and connect with the audience, because that's all locked down behind me. Good band makes life really easy.
Yeah, and just one thing that really captured me when I was looking through some of your photos and stuff and of previous gigs and things like that. Please tell me where's this venue?
Which one?
Can you see that picture?
No, but I bet you I know what you're sending me. I bet you I know what you're sending me. Is it?
Yeah, let's describe it, and I'll see if it's.
Yeah, describe it. Has it got like masks and faces in the background and stuff, or?
I think that's another angle of it. This one's got a whole stack of picture frames and stuff on the wall. Like, it's an incredible little venue.
Yeah. I think that's it. That's it. Yeah, faces and well, you can't see all the faces. Yeah, everybody asks me about that photo.
What a shot! Like, that'd be an awesome venue.
Yeah. And so anyone check out my website, because we just went live with that a few weeks ago, www.mattjogowmusic.com. That shot is on the website. My designer was like, this is a cool shot. We should use this. And I was like, yeah, that is a cool shot, Emma. So that is from the Grain Store Gallery in Oamaru. I played a jazz and blues festival there, and Grain Store Gallery had I was upstairs in the Grain Store Gallery to perform. So it's an art gallery run by Donna Demente, and she puts all her art on the walls, and it turns into a live music venue, and all the art remains there, and you play amongst it. So there's a lot to look at. If you get bored of me strumming a guitar, there's a lot to look at. But it's all the same vibe. Like, there's faces and pictures of faces, and man, there's some huge faces that weren't in that shot, that like massive big moon faces, and it's amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing place. I was like, New Zealand has some really cool, interesting venues that I wasn't aware of. I hadn't been back there in so long, into the smaller towns. And Oamaru is, while it's not a tiny town, it's not a main city in New Zealand. So to get a chance to go through there and play, it was wonderful. As part of that festival, Harbour Street Festival, it was called Jazz and Blues. Grain Store Gallery for artists, go check it out. But it is busy. It is one of the places I was lucky enough to get into.
Fantastic.
Now, all the guests we have on, I ask them one question. You're having a dinner date. It's you can invite any guest that you like. You can invite 5 guests, living or dead. 5. So who are your 5, mate?
Oh, gee. Okay. Who are my 5? Living or dead?
Yep.
Okay. John Lennon and Paul McCartney. I think I like the 2 of them, even though one's alive, one's dead. And I guess if I'm going on I guess I'd want someone to share it with who is, so my mother would be 3. That would be the 3rd person I'd invite. And then, gee, wow. So you can't just stay in the music world for that. Let's go back and let's invite, oh, gee. What a tough one. And you wonder, like, so are these guests going to talk? Are they actually are they going to get on?
It's your gig, mate, so I can do whatever you want me to do.
Okay, so we've got 3. I only need 2 more. I'm probably going to invite, well, I'll keep it music actually, because I'll have a different, there's no point mixing it up with all sorts of philosophers and people like that. So I probably would also invite Tom Petty and my 5th would be, I guess, gee, I've already got 2 Beatles. I think my 5th would be out of interest would be probably Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, I mean those musicians for me, like, I've read books and studied those guys so much. So whilst it would be interesting to talk to with a translator, to talk to Einstein and Bertrand Russell, whoever else that I might have read. I think to have those musicians, to be honest to myself of the interest that I've had, like, let's put it this way, when I signed with Liberation, I went into they had this large room with all these CDs, and Warren Costello and Gadinsky were there, and they go, "Oh, do you want to grab some CDs from the walls? You can pick a few, it's fine." And they had all these CDs up there and stuff, and that was cool. I was like, "Okay, cool, yeah." And I looked up and I saw this like box set Tom Petty Running Down a Dream, like the DVD, you know. And this is back when those things were worth a lot, opened up, they're still worth a lot. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll take that." And I could see them go, I'll take that. Box set Tom Petty Running Down a Dream, greatest music doco. So, such a huge Tom Petty fan since a kid.
It's great to see, mate, with your dinner guests, you're stuck with tradition. The 45 other guests I've had on the show, or 44, I should say, have all gone with the same theme. Not one of them mentioned to invite their children or their partner. I
invited my mother.
You were the first to invite their mum, but parents and partners don't get a Guernsey on any show I've done so far. So the tradition continues.
For me, it was just like, because my mum put me on all those. Not Hendrix, actually. My cousin put me on Hendrix, but she put me on the Beatles and Tom as well. So it'd be cool because when we finish the dinner, we can chat together about that.
Fantastic.
I think you want to make sure the dinner's cooked well.
Yeah. My mum probably do the cooking. She is an amazing cook. So yeah, she'd do the cooking. Wouldn't be me. Yeah.
Beautiful, Matt. All right. Well, on behalf of all of our team at What's Been Happening, I'd really like to thank you for your time, mate. You've been so generous. We wish you well when we get out of lockdown, and look forward to some rescheduled shows in amongst the tour with Ben Mastwick, and not only the tour with Matt, hopefully with Ben. Hopefully there's a wider venue for you, and you get to play some more shows. And I got a text from a good mate, Dave Cosma, who we had on the show again last night.
Oh yeah.
It turns out he was flashing back a few years and believes you actually opened one night for him.
I know him.
Launched his first CD.
Yeah, I know him. So that might well be true. Yeah, I think we probably played more than one show together. Was he playing shows in July that got cancelled or?
So he had a couple of things coming up and just got one that was rescheduled with Charles Jenkins at at the where was that? The spot what's that little place in Northcote? Anyway, doesn't matter. It's coming back. Swamplands.
Okay.
Yep. So on behalf of all of us, mate, once again, thank you for coming on. We're going to hit you up for one more, if we can, to play us out.
Yeah. Let's go one last one. All right. Let's do a little song called "Light My Way" to finish. Like I said, to anyone who's tuning in about an hour or so, when I get around to it, I'll post Georgia Rose with the Weeping Willows, Karen Fields, Ben Mastwick, and My Dead Leaves. We'll put that on our socials, so you'll be able to go check that out. And if you saw the show, it can be a nice little reminder of how special it was. And if you missed out, then hopefully you can see what we got to enjoy. So this song I'll finish with is called "Light My Way," and I'd like to send my love to everybody locked down all around the country, all around the world, really. And just hope everybody's doing okay. Feel free to message me anytime, and I'll try to get back to you. Anyone got a devil that they will run from? Anyone got direction or where to run? All my life, yeah, I've been searching for something. All my life, I lie to you. Back it all in an old suitcase, lining's gone. Pack it all in an old Lightning's gone and no one home my way. So baby, light my way. Lose yourself, your story of which you draw from. Cause the media, man, it's all a dream. It's all it is. All my life, yeah, I've been searching for something. All my life, no, I ain't lying to you now. Listen, backing on in that old suitcase where the lining's gone. Yeah. Backing on in that old suitcase, lining's gone and no one home my way. So baby, light my way. So baby, light my way. Yeah. So baby, light my way. All my life, yeah, I've been searching for something. All my life, no, I ain't lying to you now. All my life, yeah, I've been searching for that something. Oh, all my life, baby, all my life. Baby, all my all right.